I discovered my wife Chloe had secretly filmed our intimate moments and launched an OnlyFans empire that cost me my job, my reputation, and my dignity. While she counted her money, I lost everything, but she never imagined I would turn her own game against her, building a content empire specifically designed to orchestrate her ultimate downfall. I wasn't just going to survive her betrayal, I was going to make her regret ever pressing record. I stand in the darkened studio, watching Chloe's face on multiple screens. Each monitor shows a different stage of her realization, horror, and shame. My phone won't stop pinging with notifications, subscriber numbers exploding, revenue charts skyrocketing. The ringtone cuts through the silence. Her name flashes on my screen. I answer without speaking first. "You've destroyed me." She sobs. "How could you do this?" "It's just business," I reply, my voice calm and cold. "Besides, you should be flattered. People love watching you fall." Looking back, I should have seen the warning signs 3 years ago. The way Chloe would linger at her phone, her suddenly meticulous attention to our bedroom decor, the calculated questions about my work schedule. I hang up and stare at my reflection in the black screen. The man looking back bears little resemblance to who I once was. Eyes harder, jaw tighter, a stranger born from betrayal. I remember the first time I noticed something wrong. My coworkers acting strangely around me, whispers that stopped when I entered rooms, uncomfortable glances followed by forced smiles. Mark finally showed me what everyone had been whispering about. We were sitting in his car during lunch break. He hesitated, then handed me his phone. "I thought you knew, man," he said quietly. The screen showed an OnlyFans page. The profile picture was cropped, but I recognized our bedroom wall. The account name, "Real Amateur Couple Gets Wild." I scrolled down, my hands shaking. There I was. There we were. Intimate moments I thought were private, now with view counts in the thousands. "She's been posting for months," Mark said. "You're kind of famous." I never wanted fame. Not like this. I drove home immediately, heart pounding so hard I thought it might break my ribs. The apartment looked the same but felt different, every corner now suspicious. I tore through our space like a man possessed. The first camera I found was in our bedroom alarm clock, then another hidden in a picture frame, one in the bathroom vent, another disguised as a wall charger. I was holding a handful of tiny cameras when Chloe walked in. She didn't seem surprised or ashamed, just annoyed at the mess. "What are you doing?" she asked, setting down her designer purse. A purse I now realized I hadn't bought her. I didn't know what to say then, but now I see that moment clearly, the exact second my old life ended. "Why?" I finally managed. Chloe sighed and opened her laptop, turning the screen toward me. A dashboard showed subscription numbers, revenue charts, growth metrics. "It's just business, Ben. Look at these numbers. We made more this month than you make in a year." "We?" I could barely speak. "I never consented to this." She rolled her eyes. "You should thank me. People love you. Well, parts of you anyway." I remember how her laugh sounded then. Light and unbothered. As if my devastation was a minor inconvenience in her day. The next morning, my boss called me into his office. 2 HR representatives waited inside, faces solemn. "We've received several complaints," he began, not meeting my eyes. "Your participation in online pornography violates our morality clause." "I didn't participate," I tried to explain. "I never knew. I never consented." They exchanged glances. Skeptical. My termination paperwork was already prepared. I was escorted out past staring colleagues, some pitying, some amused, all aware of my humiliation. 3 days later, Chloe's lawyer delivered divorce papers. She wanted half of everything. More than half, actually. She argued her business venture had increased our net worth. I should have fought harder then, but I was shell-shocked, paralyzed by the speed of my unraveling. Chloe packed her expensive clothes while I sat on our couch, watching her like she was a stranger. "You'll get over it," she said, not bothering to look at me. "Maybe find someone who appreciates your talents." She left me with an empty apartment I could no longer afford, bills I couldn't pay, a reputation I couldn't repair. The lowest point came a week later. I was scrolling through comments on her channel, people dissecting my body, my performance, my most vulnerable moments. Some recognized me from social media, tagged my family members, former colleagues, friends. I remember sitting in that dingy extended stay motel drinking cheap whiskey, contemplating how to disappear entirely. That night, something shifted in me. I looked at her channel again, but differently. Not with pain, but with analytical detachment. I noticed production flaws, poor lighting choices, editing weaknesses, marketing opportunities she'd missed. I spent 3 days studying every aspect of her content, not as her victim, but as her competition. If this is the new world, order, I said to my reflection, I'll learn to thrive in it, but on my terms. I maxed out my last credit card buying basic equipment, a camera, lights, a laptop for editing. My first video wasn't what anyone expected, no explicit content, just me, looking directly into the camera, voice steady despite my racing heart. "This is what it feels like to have your life stolen from you," I told my non-existent audience. "Let me show you what happens next." I didn't know then that those words would become prophetic, that my journey from victim to victor had just begun, that one day I would have the power to orchestrate Chloe's complete destruction. I didn't know it then, but my revenge would be worth every painful step. My life became a before and after story. Before the cameras, after the betrayal, before I was naive, after I became calculated. The first month after losing everything was brutal. I slept on friends' couches until their sympathy wore thin, moved to a motel that charged by the week, applied for jobs where my viral infamy hadn't reached. It had reached everywhere. I tried to get the videos removed, spent hours on hold with content platforms, filed complaints, sent desperate emails explaining I never consented. "Without proof you didn't consent, we can't remove content uploaded by the account holder," came the standard response. I remember watching my savings drain away while Chloe's new posts continued to trend. She had rebranded slightly after the divorce. "Newly single and wild" became her tagline, my humiliation repackaged for maximum profit. I considered giving up completely. There were dark moments when disappearing seemed like the only escape, but something in me refused to let her win so completely. Looking back, my desperation gave me clarity. When you lose everything, you also lose your fear. I studied her channel obsessively, not as her victim but as her future competition. I analyzed engagement patterns, comment sections, the types of thumbnails that generated the most clicks. I created spreadsheets tracking her posting schedule, noted which content performed best. I was building a blueprint for her destruction. I just didn't know it yet. My first video was barely viewed, 10 subscribers, 20 comments, mostly mockery. "Isn't this the guy whose wife dumped him? Trying to cash in on her fame, pathetic? Lol." But a few comments stood out. "This feels real. No games, no pretense, just raw truth." Finally, someone talking about consent in this industry. I realized then that authenticity was my advantage. Chloe performed for the camera. I would reveal myself to it. My 5th video hit 10,000 views. By the 10th, I had 50,000 subscribers. I spoke directly about my experience, about betrayal, about rebuilding, about the toxic culture of exploitation, masked as empowerment. I never imagined then that my channel would become my salvation, that my pain could be transformed into power. The eviction notice came on a Tuesday, 3 months after Chloe left. My unemployment benefits wouldn't cover another week. I had $40 to my name. That same day, my subscriber count hit 100,000. A content platform reached out with a partnership offer. Not life-changing money, but enough to rent a small studio apartment. enough to buy better equipment. I remember sitting on the floor of that motel room, surrounded by final notices and unpaid bills, laughing until tears came. Not from joy, from the absurdity. My involuntary pornography career was saving me from homelessness. I didn't know it then, but hitting rock bottom gave me the foundation to build something unshakable. 6 months after launching my channel, I received my first 5-figure payment. I moved into a decent apartment, invested in professional equipment, hired an editor. My content evolved, less about my personal tragedy, more about creating genuine connections with my audience and collaborators. I focused on production quality, thoughtful narratives, creating experiences rather than just explicit content. I began traveling, met performers who approached adult entertainment as art rather than exploitation, women from different countries who valued consent and authenticity above all else. An Italian actress I collaborated with had studied film theory. "Your work has subtext," she told me. "Most in this industry just have sex." A Japanese model taught me about composition and lighting. A French performer helped refine my storytelling techniques. I was building something unique, something with integrity in an industry often lacking it. Every step forward was motivated by a single thought. One day, Chloe would see what I had created from the ruins she left me in. 1 year after my world collapsed, I did my first industry interview. The journalist seemed surprised by my articulate responses, by my business acumen, by my philosophy. "You've turned pain into power," she noted. "How does it feel knowing your ex-wife's channel is struggling while yours breaks records?" I had heard rumors about Chloe's declining popularity. Her content had grown stale, her performances increasingly desperate as subscriber numbers dropped. "I'm just getting started," I told the journalist, smiling for the cameras. The interview went viral. My subscriber count doubled overnight. Industry leaders reached out with collaboration offers. Production companies sought meetings. I remember that night standing on my new apartment's balcony, looking at the city lights. For the first time since the betrayal, I felt something like peace, like control. I hadn't expected success to taste so sweet, or for revenge to be so patient. I began investing my earnings strategically, researched the business structures behind content platforms, analyzed ownership patterns, identified vulnerabilities. Through industry connections, I learned more about Chloe's situation. Her attempts to recreate the authenticity that made her original videos popular had failed. Viewers sensed the manipulation, the desperation. Her subscriber count had plateaued, then declined. She had tried diversifying, launched merchandise, created a premium Snapchat, attempted collaborations with bigger names who turned her down. Each failure fed my resolve. I wasn't just rebuilding my life. I was creating the instrument of her downfall. I started buying shares in her production company, small purchases through different accounts. Nothing to trigger suspicion. Laying groundwork for my ultimate revenge. In quiet moments, I sometimes wondered if success alone should be enough. If I could simply leave Chloe behind and focus on my growing empire. Those moments never lasted long. The memory of her laughing while my life collapsed would return. The casual cruelty, the complete lack of remorse. Looking back, I see now how my pain transformed into purpose, how my humiliation became determination, how her betrayal created something stronger in me than kindness ever could. By the end of that second year, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. And the blueprint for Chloe's complete destruction was almost ready to implement. My channel continued to evolve beyond simple revenge. I crafted experiences that explored deeper themes: consent, connection, authenticity. The performances became secondary to the stories we told. Industry insiders took notice. Award nominations followed. My name mentioned in business publications as a disruptor, an innovator. The irony wasn't lost on me. I remember the first time I saw my face on a magazine cover. "The Future of Adult Entertainment," read the headline. 2 years earlier, I had been unemployable, a cautionary tale, a victim. My success brought unexpected allies. Former competitors became collaborators. Industry veterans offered mentorship. I absorbed their knowledge, their contacts, their insights into the business side of desire. 1. Connection proved particularly valuable. Sophia, a retired performer who had transitioned into production, invited me to an exclusive industry event. "There's someone you should meet," she said. The someone was Adrian Reynolds, majority shareholder in Pinnacle Productions, the company that distributed Chloe's content. I never expected Kirama to have such perfect timing. Adrian was nearing retirement, looking to sell his stakes in various adult entertainment ventures, including Pinnacle. "Your reputation precedes you," he said, studying me over his whiskey. "They say you understand both sides of the camera." We talked for hours, not about Chloe specifically, about the industry, its future, the untapped potential of ethical production, standards, financial projections, market trends. Looking back, I see how perfectly I played the role. The visionary businessman, the creative force, never once revealing my true motivation. 3 months later, after careful negotiation through shell companies and discreet investors, I acquired controlling interest in Pinnacle Productions. The press release mentioned nothing about me personally, just another corporate restructuring. The day the final papers were signed, I opened an expensive bottle of scotch, raised a glass to my reflection. "Cheers," I said to the man I had become. Phase 1 complete. I didn't move immediately against Chloe. Patience had become my greatest weapon. I installed my own people in key positions at Pinnacle, reviewed all talent contracts, analyzed performance metrics. Chloe's numbers confirmed what industry gossip had suggested. Her viewership had declined 60% over 18 months. Engagement metrics showed increasing dissatisfaction. Comment sections, filled with comparisons to newer performers. To me, her contract had a performance clause. If viewership fell below certain thresholds, Pinnacle could reduce her guaranteed payments. The previous management had never enforced it. I instructed my team to send formal notice immediately. The email came 2 days later, from Chloe directly. Not her manager, not her lawyer. "We need to talk, this isn't right." I didn't respond. Let her anxiety build. Another week passed before I had my assistant schedule a meeting. "Mr. Jensen can offer you 15 minutes next Thursday." I remember the satisfaction of making her wait, of knowing she had no idea who now controlled her professional fate. I never imagined when she destroyed my life that I would someday hold the same power over hers. The meeting was set in my private conference room. Modern, minimalist, designed to intimidate with its sparse luxury. Chloe arrived 10 minutes early. I made her wait 30 minutes past the appointment time. When I finally entered, her expression was a perfect combination of anger and desperation. "You can't do this," she started, standing as I walked in. "My contract guarantees minimum payments regardless of performance metrics." I sat, said nothing. Let her continue her prepared speech about contract violations and potential legal action. When she finally paused for breath, I smiled, not warmly, not cruelly, just confidently. "Sit down, Chloe." Something in my tone made her comply immediately. "Your contract includes performance requirements. Page 16, paragraph 4. Your numbers have fallen below threshold for 3 consecutive quarters." I slid a document across the table. Analytics, reports, viewership charts, all trending downward. "This isn't about money," she said, voice softer now. "This is personal. You bought Pinnacle to get back at me." I laughed then, not because she was wrong, because she had only glimpsed the very beginning of my plan. Pinnacle was a sound business investment. Your declining performance is simply a liability that needs addressing. I remember how small she looked in that moment, how the power had shifted so completely. "What do you want from me?" she finally asked. I didn't know it then, but watching her squirm would become one of my favorite memories. Pinnacle is launching a new series. Reunion specials with high production value, artistic direction, narrative focus. I let the implication hang in the air between us. You want me to perform with you? After everything? The fee is 7 figures, I said, placing another document before her. 1 day of shooting. Full creative control remains with Pinnacle. She stared at the number on the page. Her hands shook slightly. Why would I do this? Because your relevance is fading. Because your income has dropped 70% in 2 years. Because this single project will earn you more than the next 5 years combined at your current trajectory. All true statements. All calculated to push her toward the trap I was setting. I need time to think about it, she said. I stood. Meeting over. You have 48 hours. After that, the offer goes to someone whose metrics are trending upward. Looking back now, I realize how methodically I had constructed her downfall, how each step led her closer to her own destruction. 2 days later, her signed contract arrived. No negotiations, no changes. Complete capitulation. Phase 2 was ready to begin. I assembled the industry's best creative team for the project. Cinematographers, lighting designers, set decorators, people who had worked on award-winning films outside the adult industry. Their instructions were specific and non-negotiable. Recreate my former apartment exactly. Every detail perfect. The color of the walls, the placement of furniture, even the view from the windows using digital backdrops. The symbolism wasn't subtle. The setting of her original betrayal would become the stage for her final humiliation. I remember walking through the completed set for the first time. The physical manifestation of my obsessive planning, of my patient revenge. Everything was in place. The hidden cameras far more sophisticated than the ones she had used against me. The props selected for maximum psychological impact. Old photographs, mementos from our life together. The contract gave me complete creative control. The right to edit the final product however I saw fit. The exclusive distribution rights. I knew then, standing in that perfect recreation of my past, that I had already won. Chloe just didn't know it yet. The day of the shoot arrived. I sat in my office reviewing final preparations. Everything had to be perfect. My revenge wasn't just about humiliation. It was about justice. About balance restored. My assistant knocked softly. Ms. Reynolds has arrived. I took a moment before responding, savored the anticipation. Have her wait in the green room. Tell her I'll be there shortly. I made her wait 30 minutes. Not out of pettiness. Out of strategy. I wanted her nervous, off balance, vulnerable. When I finally entered, Chloe was pacing. She wore expensive clothes that couldn't hide her anxiety. Designer sunglasses indoors, a weak attempt at armor. The set is ready, I said without greeting. Wardrobe wants to see you. She removed her sunglasses, studied my face. This feels weird, Ben. I kept my expression neutral, professional, detached. It's just business, I replied, echoing her words from years ago. The viewers will love it. I remember how she flinched, slightly, recognition flickering across her features. The realization that I hadn't forgotten, that perhaps this wasn't just another project. I led her to the set personally, watched her reaction as she stepped into the perfect recreation of our former home. This is creepy, she said, turning slowly, taking in every detail, the exact shade of blue on the walls, the arrangement of books on shelves, even the worn spot on the sofa armrest. It's artistic, I corrected. The viewers will love the symmetry. I introduced her to the production team, all professionals who had signed strict confidentiality agreements, all loyal to me, not her. The concept is simple, I explained as technicians adjusted lighting. A reunion, a conversation about then and now, about choices and consequences. When do we start? She asked. We already have, I replied. What Chloe didn't know was that multiple cameras had been recording since she entered the building, capturing her unguarded moments, her nervousness in the green room, her whispered phone call to her manager. He's different now. Colder, I don't like it. I never imagined when she betrayed me that I would turn her own tactics against her so completely. The official shoot began an hour later. I remained behind the scenes initially, letting the director guide Chloe through preliminary scenes, solo shots establishing her character in our narrative. I watched on monitors in a separate room, studied her body language, the performance versus the reality, the mask she wore versus the apprehension underneath. Looking back now, I see how calculated every decision was, how each element of the production was designed to break down her defenses, to expose her true nature. When I finally stepped in front of the cameras, Chloe had been filming for 3 hours. She was tired, less guarded, more susceptible to the emotional manipulation I had orchestrated. Let's try something unscripted, I suggested. Just conversation. Real reactions. The director nodded, signaling the crew. Lighting shifted subtly. Camera angles adjusted. I sat across from Chloe in what had once been our living room, the place where I had confronted her about the hidden cameras years before. Tell me about success, I began. What does it mean to you now versus then? Simple question. Deceptively so. The trap being laid one word at a time. Chloe spoke about her career, her choices, her philosophy on empowerment and entrepreneurship, well-rehearsed answers she had given in dozens of interviews. I nodded, appeared interested, then reached beneath the coffee table and produced a small object. Do you recognize this? Her facade cracked instantly. It was one of the original cameras she had hidden in our bedroom, the first one I had discovered. Where did you get that? She asked, voice barely audible. I kept it. As a reminder. I never took my eyes from hers, never let her look away. A reminder of what? That trust is precious, and betrayal has consequences. The cameras captured everything. Her discomfort, her guilt. The moment realization dawned that this project was something very different from what she had believed. I guided the conversation deliberately through our shared history, asked questions that seemed benign but were precisely calibrated to expose her contradictions, her rationalizations, her lack of remorse. Throughout the day, I had arranged for specific props to be introduced. Our wedding photo, bills from the motel where I had lived after being evicted, a printout of my termination notice. Each item triggered visible reactions. Reactions the hidden cameras captured from angles she wasn't aware of. We should take a break, she said after several hours. Of course, I agreed. 10 minutes. The official cameras stopped recording. The hidden ones continued. I watched on a private monitor as she retreated to a corner of the set. Called someone. Whispered urgently. This isn't what I expected. He's making me look terrible. It's like he's trying to punish me. I didn't know then how perfectly that audio would fit into my final edit. The shoot continued for 12 hours. Exhaustion broke down Chloe's performance until only raw truth remained. Until the carefully constructed image she had created collapsed entirely. By the final scene, she was emotionally drained. Vulnerable, in a way no acting could achieve. One last question, I said as the official shoot wrapped. The main cameras were off. Only the hidden ones recorded now. What would you say to the man whose life you destroyed? If you could go back and speak to him honestly? She looked at me directly. Perhaps the first genuine moment between us in years. I would say I'm sorry. That I got caught up in something and didn't think about the consequences. That I never meant for things to go so far. I nodded slowly, said nothing. Do you believe me? She asked. No. I stood. But it made for great content. I walked away then, left her sitting alone in the replica of the home, where she had betrayed me, where I had lost everything and begun my journey to reclaim it all. The raw footage was exactly what I had envisioned. Better even. Her vulnerability, her guilt, her unsuccessful attempts to manipulate the narrative. I spent the next 3 weeks in the editing bay personally, crafting my masterpiece of revenge. selecting moments from the hidden cameras, juxtaposing them against her polished performance, creating split screens showing her current vulnerability alongside footage of her original betrayal. Looking back, I realize I wasn't just creating content. I was constructing her destruction with the precision of an architect, the patience of a hunter, the focus of someone who had nothing left to lose. When the final edit was complete, I watched it alone, saw my revenge take form in high definition. The story it told was devastating. The portrait it painted of Chloe was damning. It was perfect. The release date was set. Marketing began. The internet buzzed with speculation about the reunion special between industry icons with a complicated history. No one anticipated exactly what I had created. No one except me. The marketing campaign launched with surgical precision. Teaser clips carefully selected to hint at the emotional intensity without revealing the true nature of the content. Industry publications received exclusive interviews where I spoke in generalities about artistic vision and narrative truth. Chloe participated in the publicity as required by her contract. She seemed relieved during these appearances. Perhaps believing the final product would be a standard collaboration, a mutually beneficial project that would rejuvenate her declining career. I remember watching her on a talk show, smiling, laughing, telling the host how professional the experience had been. "I think people will be surprised by what we created," she said. On that point, we agreed completely. Release day arrived. My team had negotiated simultaneous distribution across multiple platforms, maximum exposure, unprecedented promotion. The internet hummed with anticipation. I watched the view counter climb in real time from my office. 1 million in the first hour, 3 million by midday, 10 million before evening. My phone rang continuously. Industry contacts, journalists, competitors seeking collaboration. I let them all go to voicemail. This moment belonged to me alone. I didn't know it then, but witnessing Chloe's destruction would feel less satisfying than the meticulous planning that preceded it. The comments began flooding in immediately. Viewers, shocked by the raw emotional content, by the unfiltered exposure of Chloe's manipulation and lack of remorse, by the artful juxtaposition of her past cruelty against her present vulnerability. Critics called it groundbreaking, a devastating exploration of betrayal and reckoning. Cinema verite meets intimate revenge, the most emotionally authentic content the industry has ever produced. Industry forums exploded with analysis. Performers and producers alike recognized the paradigm shift, the elevation of the medium to something beyond exploitation, something honest in its brutality. Looking back, I see how completely I had transformed from victim to visionary, how thoroughly I had reclaimed the narrative. Sponsors began pulling from Chloe's remaining projects by the second day. Platforms demonetized her content, citing policy violations regarding authentic consent. Industry friends publicly distanced themselves. The same fair-weather support system that once celebrated her success now participated eagerly in her downfall. I monitored it all dispassionately, watched the consequences unfold exactly as I had predicted. Her first attempt to contact me came 3 days after release, a text message at 2 a.m. "We need to talk, please." I didn't respond. Her manager called next, then her lawyer, then her publicist, all seeking damage control options, all redirected to my legal team. The video had broken every viewing record across multiple platforms. The revenue was unprecedented, but this had never been about money for me. I remember standing in my penthouse that week, looking out over the city lights, feeling not triumph, but something quieter, something like closure beginning to form. My assistant interrupted my reflection. "Sir, Ms. Reynolds is in the lobby. Security says she's insisting on seeing you, making quite a scene." I considered having her removed. Decided against it. This confrontation was inevitable, perhaps necessary for complete resolution. "Send her up." Chloe arrived disheveled, eyes red from crying or lack of sleep. Maybe both. Designer clothes wrinkled, the polished image completely abandoned. You've destroyed me, she said the moment my door closed behind her. My reputation, my career, everything. I gestured toward a chair. She remained standing. How could you do this to me? She demanded. I didn't know it then, but her lack of self-awareness would continue to amaze me until the very end. I did nothing to you that you didn't do to me first, I replied calmly. The difference is that you never had my consent. I had yours in writing. She paced my living room frantically, arms wrapped around herself like armor. The edit is manipulative. You made me look like a monster. The edit is honest. It simply shows who you are when you think no one is watching. She stopped suddenly, turned to face me. We need to release a joint statement. Explain it was performance art, a commentary on privacy and consent in the digital age. Something to give this context. The desperation in her voice was palpable. She wasn't concerned with truth or justice, only with salvaging what remained of her career, her reputation, her income. Why would I do that, I asked. Because this has gone far enough. You've made your point. You've had your revenge. I considered her words carefully, weighed them against 3 years of methodical planning, against the memory of losing everything while she counted profits from my humiliation. This isn't revenge, Chloe. It's consequences. She collapsed onto my sofa then, the fight visibly draining from her body. What do you want from me? Money, public apology? What will make this stop? I sat across from her, maintained the physical and emotional distance I had cultivated so carefully. Nothing will make it stop. The content exists. People have seen it. The judgment has been rendered. There must be something, she insisted. Everyone has a price. Looking back, I recognized that moment as her final attempt at manipulation. Her belief that everything and everyone could be bought, that consequences were negotiable. I lost everything because of you, I said quietly. My job, my home, my dignity. You watched it happen and felt nothing. Why should I feel differently about your losses now? She stared at me, perhaps truly seeing me for the first time since our marriage ended. You planned this for years, she whispered. All of it. Buying the production company, building your career, the reunion project, all to destroy me. I smiled then, not cruelly, simply in acknowledgement of a truth finally recognized. You gave me the blueprint, I told her. I just improved the execution. She left soon after. No resolution, no compromise, no forgiveness sought or offered. I didn't know it then, but our final interaction was still to come. The true culmination of my patient revenge. 2 days later, Chloe's publicist reached out to my team. She was willing to sign anything, do anything, say anything to mitigate the damage. She was desperate for any lifeline. I had my legal team prepare a document, one final contract to complete the circle of justice I had drawn around her. The terms appeared straightforward. A joint statement acknowledging the project as a creative exploration of complex themes, mutual respect between artists, standard public relations language. The fine print told a different story, one Chloe would discover only after signing, after thinking she had found escape. The contract arrived at Chloe's manager's office by private courier, 20 pages of legal language with the promised joint statement prominently displayed on the first page. Professional reconciliation, mutual respect, a path forward for both parties. I knew she wouldn't read beyond that first page. Desperation makes people careless, makes them see salvation where there is only further damnation. My legal team confirmed receipt within the hour. Her signature on every page, initials on every paragraph, no questions, no lawyer review requested, pure surrender. I remember sitting in my office when the execution copy arrived in my inbox, the final piece of my elaborate puzzle sliding into place. What Chloe didn't know was that buried in the contract language was her complete financial surrender. All future earnings from her content directed to a foundation for victims of privacy violation. All current assets transferred to support education about consent and digital ethics. Looking back, I see the beautiful symmetry of it all. How perfectly the punishment aligned with the crime. The transfer was scheduled for midnight, automated, irreversible. By morning, she would be financially ruined, but legally bound to maintain our public fiction of professional respect. I didn't know it then, but watching the final moments of my revenge unfold would bring less satisfaction than I had imagined during those dark days in the motel room. My assistant knocked softly at 10 that evening. "The transaction is confirmed, sir. All assets transferred as specified." I nodded, dismissed him with a gesture. It was done. 3 years of planning, of building, of waiting, culminated in this moment of complete victory. I poured myself a glass of scotch, the expensive kind I couldn't afford in my previous life, raised it to my reflection in the window overlooking the city. "To justice," I said quietly. My phone vibrated, Chloe's name on the screen. I considered ignoring it, decided to witness the final scene of our drama. "You knew I wouldn't read it," she said when I answered, voice hollow, defeated. "You knew I was desperate." "Yes. I have nothing left. The house, the cars, my savings, all gone. Now you understand how it feels." Silence stretched between us, the distance of years and trauma. "What am I supposed to do now?" she finally asked. I took a sip of scotch, considered my response carefully. "That's not my concern. Just as my survival wasn't yours when you left me with nothing." I remember her breathing, ragged, broken. "I never thought you capable of this," she whispered, "of such calculated cruelty." The irony was exquisite, the lack of self-awareness still staggering. "I learned from the best," I replied. I ended the call, blocked her number permanently, deleted all contact information, closure. Finally, completely. The press release went out the next morning as scheduled. The carefully crafted statement about creative differences and mutual respect, about the project being an exploration of complex emotional dynamics. Industry publications reported on it dutifully, none aware of the private devastation behind the professional courtesy. I didn't know it then, but the foundation I had created, with Chloe's assets, would go on to help hundreds of victims of privacy violations, would fund landmark legislation protecting individuals from exploitation, would transform my personal revenge into something approaching public good. 3 months later, I stood at the podium accepting another industry award. Critics had declared our reunion project a watershed moment for ethical content creation, for narrative honesty, for emotional authenticity. The irony wasn't lost on me. This project was about truth, I told the audience, about consequences, about the price we pay for our choices. Applause thundered through the venue. Approval from an industry that had once participated in my humiliation, that now celebrated my vision without understanding its true origins. I spotted Chloe in the crowd, not as an attendee, as waitstaff, serving champagne to the same celebrities who had once courted her collaboration, who now looked through her as if she were invisible. Our eyes met briefly. No recognition in mine, no forgiveness, no pity. Looking back, I see that moment as the true conclusion of our story. Not her financial ruin, not my professional triumph, but the simple reality that she had become nothing to me, less than nothing. I sold my controlling interest in Pinnacle Productions 6 months later, for 10 times what I had paid, the market value inflated by the unprecedented success of our final collaboration. I moved my operations to a larger facility, expanded into distribution, production, technology, built an empire on the foundation of my revenge. My penthouse offers a view of the entire city now, floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the world I have conquered, the life I have reclaimed. I sometimes think about the man I was before, the naive husband who trusted completely, who believed in fairness and decency, who thought the world punished the wicked and rewarded the kind. That man died in a motel room 3 years ago, was reborn as someone stronger, colder, more capable of survival in a world where trust is weakness and vengeance is art. I never saw Chloe again after that awards ceremony. Industry gossip suggested she had left the city, changed her name, tried to outrun her past and her public shame. Some wounds never heal. Some betrayals cannot be forgiven. Some revenge is worth the price of becoming the monster you once feared. I stand at my window now. Watch the city lights below. The empire I built from nothing, from less than nothing. My phone vibrates with another notification. Another million views. Another partnership offer. Another opportunity to expand my influence. I delete Chloe's contact information once again. Not out of lingering anger, but because she has become irrelevant. A footnote in my success story. The bitterness lingers, of course, the memory of absolute betrayal, the knowledge of what I became, to survive it. But as I look at my reflection in the window glass at the man she created with her cruelty, I realize some scars are worth keeping. They remind us of what we survived, of what we overcame, of who we became in the aftermath. I raise my glass one final time, not to revenge, not to success, but to transformation, to the death of who I was, and the birth of who I needed to become.